Well, good morning from Chapel Hill, and we welcome you to a full day of ACC spring football here on ACC Network, and we get you started inside beautiful Kenan Stadium. It's an all-access practice for the next couple of hours with the North Carolina Tar Heels. And when we say all-access, we mean it. Wide receiver J.J. Jones will be live with us, so will linebacker rush in. Kaimon Rucker will join us, and then both coordinators, new defensive coordinator Geoff Collins will be here, and second-year offensive coordinator Chip Lindsey will join us as well as we get started on a busy day on ACC Network from here in Chapel Hill. And great to be with Roddy Jones, ESPN.com's David Hale, who covers the ACC, and, of course, the Hall of Fame head coach of the Tar Heels, Mack Brown, joins us here at the top. This is always a fun time of year, isn't it?
Well, it is a fun time of the year, and what we thought, it might be more fun for fans to see what happens at a practice instead of just a spring game. Spring games are so different now, and you got limited guys healthy, and you're not going to show anything. And so we felt like this gives our culture more experience, more exposure. It gives our players more exposure.
Yeah.
So we thought this would be a fun day, and appreciate you guys coming. And Roddy said he wants to call a few plays, and that's good. We can do that. And the good thing is, in the spring when you call them, nobody cares.
Exactly.
It's in the fall where they care.
I know. Well, the big question for people coming who are watching this practice, the thing they're going to see is the quarterback. Drake May off to the NFL. You got two really good options. Max Johnson transfers in from Texas A&M. You've got Connor Harrell here. What has that quarterback battle been like?
Roddy, the best thing right now is both of them can play. We're excited. And we've had two of the best ever that they're in the NFL, and one of them's going to be in the NFL in 2 weeks. So we know what we've lost, but it'll be fun to watch these guys today. Max is 6'5", 230. He can run, similar to Drake when he runs, a lot better than people think. Connor probably runs 4.4, and he's getting more accurate as a passer. So what we're doing is Chip Lindsey and our offensive staff are having to do a great job of what does Connor do best? Let's make sure we're doing what he does best. It's not our offense, it's his offense. What does Max do best? And Max has thrown over 900 balls in the SEC. He's played in some big games. So neither one of them are scared. They're both confident. They really respect each other. They're appreciating each other, and it's been a fun room and fun competition for them.
Well, one of the things that I think everybody's talking about, Drake May's gone, so how are they going to replace that? To me, you also lost 4 guys on that offensive line. So whoever is at quarterback, you got to be able to protect them. I know that's one of the positions you really liked this spring, though.
Yeah, David, I appreciate what our guys did that were here at Corey. Tough, and now you've got Austin Blaskey that comes in from Georgia. And he was the 6th guy there, and he's done the same thing. He stepped up as a leader in the center, and he's been fun to watch. And Willie Lampkin's back. We're looking at the left guard, but there's some good competition there. Trey Green standing up, 6'8", 240. I like it when I look up at him. And he's really doing a good job as a redshirt freshman. Left tackle we brought in, Howard Sampson, 6'8", 335 from North Texas State. He's doing really, really well, and some of the young ones look good. So I'm really encouraged with this offensive line.
It's interesting as we've moved through in preparation for this and visiting with you and your staff yesterday, one of the underlying tenements is you want to finish better. You know exactly what's happened the last couple of years, and it's a point of focus for you, right?
Yeah, I'm proud of our guys. I'm proud of what we've done in 5 years. We've been to a bowl game every year. We've lost some really good players in bowl games every year, so we haven't won them, and that's changed our world a little bit. So we've got to prepare better for that. If we think a guy may not play in the bowl game, let's have somebody else ready to play. And we might should have played Connor some if Drake wasn't going to play in the bowl game. So we've got to relook at that. But we're 6-0 last year and didn't finish well. Still won 8. We're 9-1 the year before, and we lost some games that we should have won in my estimation. That's what you can't do as a coach. It's what you can't do as a team. So we're looking and uncovering every little stone to see what can be different. We need to play more people because we get tired and have too many injuries at the end of the year. We need to do a better job in the kicking game. We were second in the league 2 years ago. We were not good last year. Why? We're not playing the best players because we're playing them all on offense and defense, and they're tired. So we've got to do a better job of being all-inclusive, get more guys to play, transfer portal, more guys that are happy, and the morale's better, they stay. They got a better chance to stay. We got to run the ball consistently better. We got to pass protect better, and we've got to stop the run better and force more turnovers on defense. So we know what we've got to do to be better, and it's not gray. It's real. It's there. I tell recruits everything in this program is great except I want to win all the games, and that's what we want to do. And we're close. We're so close, but we're not there yet.
Coach, you mentioned a lot of stuff on the defensive side of the football. You went out and got Geoff Collins, a guy who you were familiar with from competing against, knowing through the years. What has he brought to this team, to this defensive unit?
Our defense we've had two really good defensive coordinators in Jay Bateman and Gene Chizik. They know what they're doing. They've got a track record of success. We've been good at times. We haven't been consistently good, and we haven't had a lot of confidence on defense. It's like the first time something happens bad, we kind of duck. Geoff is a confident guy, and that nobody's ever questioned that. He knows what he wants. He wants to play a lot of players. He's high energy. He's inclusive with the staff. He's watched us for a year. He's watched me. Pat Suttis was with him at Georgia Tech. He's here as our general manager, so there was a common thread between the two. And he's been simpler and more aggressive. And that's what I was looking for. Look complicated, be simple, but come after them, man. We're not good enough to sit and just wait. We got to go be aggressive and get after quarterbacks and stop the run.
I think people are going to be able to see that when he's mic'd up with us later in the show.
Yeah, all of the
Geoff
above.
Collins, noted introvert, Geoff Collins.
Yeah.
Mac, you mentioned the transfer portal earlier, and we're a couple of days out from another transfer portal window opening. You mentioned getting a couple of guys that maybe Hubert might have been actually recruiting against you for. But how much has your job this time of year changed because of the portal windows?
David, it's changed, and we said you can gripe about COVID when we had COVID because there were not any guidelines. So the guys that handled COVID the best were the ones that were going to win. You can gripe about the transfer portal. It's real. It's here. You can gripe about the NIL, and the combination of NIL and the transfer portal, it's really difficult, and people are tampering. They're just calling our players. So we can gripe about it. We can whine about it. We can make it an excuse, and you get fired. So handle it. Handle it the best way you can handle it with your players and within the program. Try to help college football wake up and get better at some of the things we're doing. But what's different now, David, is next Tuesday the portal opens. If I walk by a guy at lunch and he doesn't speak to me, I figure he's gone. Last year we had the portal open on the day of our spring game, and I said, pregame meal, guys, if you walk by him and he don't look up, he's gone. Just figure that. So, but what we've tried to do is be very honest with our players. We tell our coaches, treat the players like you would want your son to be treated.
Right.
I'm really tough on my kids. I've always told them the truth. I'm hard on the staff. I want them to know exactly what I think we're doing well and what I think needs to improve. We're the same way with our players, and the players have responded so well. The players that have left here, by and large, we had one get bought off our campus last year, but by and large, the guys that have left here weren't getting to play. And to me, that's what the portal's for. It's not for your top players to be bought. It's for the ones that aren't getting to play, that are trying really hard to have a chance to go somewhere else and play.
Real quick, I want to Chip Lindsey's in his second year. You've got one of the premier running backs, not just in the ACC, but nationally.
Took us long enough to talk about the running back.
Who is this?
Again, Amarian Hampton comes back behind an offensive line we've discussed in terms of its improvement. You've got to be pretty excited where Chip is, and it sounded like in our visit, the variety in your playbook with your X and O package seems to be expanding too.
Yeah, it's Roddy was a great running back, but I've coached some great running backs, and they make that offensive line better. Yeah. When you can't touch them, they say, God, what a great block. Yeah, well, he ran over two that as well. So our Omarian's different. He is special, and people are trying to get him to leave, and he's been committed. He wants to stay here. He loves this place, and that's who you got to recruit now. Recruiting's different, David, when you start looking at portal, because if you think he might be bought before he gets here, he's darn sure going to be bought after he gets here if he's any good. So you've got to think about who's going to stay, not only who's good. Omarian's tough. He's smart. He's 220. He runs 4.4. He's one of the best players in America. He'll be a very high draft choice next year. And he's got to be our face on offense. You got to have a face. It was Drake last year. Well, it's Omarian this year because he's one of the best out there. And then he makes everybody else better because when they've got a bunch of guys around the line of scrimmage, you got to stop the running game. Then the wide receivers are one-on-one. And we got some very talented young wide receivers. So, and we said the running game's a quarterback's best friend. We've had too many sacks around here for 5 years. I expect to have fewer sacks just because we can run the ball better.
Coach, wide receiver, you mentioned you've got a bunch of good ones. Maybe not the household names you've had the last couple of years. Josh Downs, followed up by Tez Walker. Before that, you had De'Ami Brown and that group. This wide receiver group, what excites you about them?
Roddy, every wide receiver that started for Lonnie Galloway, our receivers coach, in our 5 years is in the NFL. So that's been pretty cool.
Yeah.
It's an easy sell for recruits.
Yep.
And then you look at, you've got Chris Culliver, who will not practice today, but he's looked great this spring. You got Christian Hamilton. I'll probably forget one now since I'm throwing them out here. Nate McCollum is playing much better than early last year, the transfer from Georgia Tech. But the three young ones, you got a bunch hurt. You got about 4 hurt, and we told them, they don't know who Wally Pipp is. I said, you may get Wally Pipped here if you don't get back out on the field. But Jordan Shipp's got great hands. Alex Taylor can run and he got great hands. Vari Green he ran 4.3 at some camps when he was out there. So these young guys are fun, and they're fun to watch. And every day we walk off the field and say, those guys are good, man.
Well, you mentioned Jordan Shipp, and I just want to follow up on that because we talked to Kaimon Rucker and J.J. Jones a little bit yesterday. They said they haven't seen him drop a ball yet. You've coached some real good ones over the years. I know you don't want to get ahead of yourself, but you actually have compared him to some of those better ones that you've seen just in terms of his hands and consistency.
David, he and Alex Taylor are both long. They're fast. But I have seen, and you'll see it today, some Jordan Shipp. Lonnie gets mad at him, our receiver coach, because they'll throw him a ball and he'll catch it like this. Lonnie says, put 2 hands on it. And I said, hey, you can catch it with 1. Use the other one to get people away, man. So, but we're very, very fortunate. We got some great young backs. We got some great young receivers. Top 3 tight ends aren't out here today, and we're still going to be talented at tight end. That's one of the best rooms in the country. So we've got a fun season ahead.
Well, I want to tell you, it's a good thing you mentioned tight ends there at the end because, as you know, these two lead the league.
Tight end room.
Yeah,
love
they love
the
your tight end room. I mean, they're all about it.
I love that tight end room too. So you're right. You are right.
Thank you for the invitation to do this today. We're looking forward to going all access here with Geoff Collins in a minute, and thanks for the hospitality.
Great. You won't have to talk much with Geoff.
Have your finger on the censor button. But other than that, we don't have to.
No, he did warn him.
Yeah.
He said, I'm going to be all over you in a positive way,
and
he told him the truth. So that's it. But glad you're here. Let's have fun today.
Yep.
I want people to see what a college football practice looks like, and all access means you got access to anything we got. So whatever you want, you got.
Go raid the fridge soon.
Yeah. Well, you can do that too. If you need something, we'll bring it out. But grab me during practice if you need something, a question, and you think the fans might want to know about, and we'll answer it.
All right, Coach. Thanks a lot. Mack Brown gets us started from Chapel Hill. When we come back, the Tar Heels' new defensive coordinator, Geoff Collins, will be live with us as we continue from Chapel Hill on a busy Saturday on ACC Network. Welcome back to ACC Network, All Access with Carolina here this morning with Roddy Jones and David Hale, West Durham. And we start talking about the Tar Heel defense and, of course, the new coordinator, Geoff Collins, who, of course, Roddy, 3.5 years as the head coach at Georgia Tech. But, Roddy, plenty of experience as a coordinator, Florida International, Mississippi State, and then Florida before getting his first head coaching opportunity at Temple.
Yeah, and the head coaching stops at Temple and Georgia Tech. Obviously, great success at Temple. Georgia Tech made some improvements after replacing Paul Johnson, but ultimately wasn't able to get as much success as he would have liked there. But when you go back and you look at the numbers from his tenure as a defensive coordinator at the Power 5 level at Mississippi State, turned that defense around. And those 2 defenses he coached at Florida West were phenomenal. Top 10 in both total defense and scoring defense in 2015 and 2016. Geoff Collins is one of the best defensive coordinators in the country, bar none. And I'm excited to see what he does with this Carolina crew.
Well, Carolina is getting into their stretch period to get ready to start this practice. And, Roddy, we're going to listen in a little bit here with Geoff Collins, but at the same time, his enthusiasm for not only being here and being back on the sideline, but his enthusiasm to work with this personnel was pretty evident yesterday.
Yeah, it was. It was incredible just talking to him. You can feel the energy at all times. It seems like Coach Collins is having the best day every day. But you mentioned the personnel, Wes. I just want to talk about the size of some of these defensive linemen in particular. Travis Shaw's coming in at a cool 6'5", 330. Desmond Evans, 6'6", 270 playmaker. You got Kaimon Rucker, who was one of the best disruptive defensive linemen in the conference last year. Javari Ritzie, 6'4", 290. You go down the list. Kevin Hester, over 300. They have the personnel, particularly on the defensive line, to be great. You heard Mack Brown talk about the fact they wanted to be more aggressive but simpler at the same time. And we've got Coach Collins, so I want to ask Coach Collins, Coach, how do you accomplish being aggressive and yet simple with this incredible group that you have on defense?
We're going to mean right now, right?
Yeah, let's go.
Yeah. Just excited about the guys playing fast, playing physical, playing aggressive. And on the back end, you got corners like Elijah Huzzy and Marcus Allen and the new kid Dooley, Tyran Stewart on the back end.
Geoff, go ahead, David.
We just heard Roddy talking about the size of some of these guys, including Travis Shaw. You told us a good story yesterday. You texted Travis a picture of you in high school and him and said, look, we're the same guy. And I think that is, A, evident of your personality, but B, very much about the relationships you're trying to build with these guys right off the bat. How important has that been for you as the new coach coming in to build those bonds with these guys? He's not. So, yeah, I mean, this is sort of the beauty of Geoff Collins, right? I mean, he is all personality. And I think a lot of folks a lot of the folks that remember Geoff from Georgia Tech. I mean, this is right. Who he is. He's a talker. He's a relationship guy.
Yeah, we'll try and get that worked out. It is interesting. You mentioned the personnel, Roddy, a moment ago, and Geoff was talking about the back end of who they are on defense. When Elijah Huzzy was lost in the last third of the season, that was a big loss for a Carolina team who had started taking the ball away a little bit. And, David, that speaks to kind of what Mack Brown visited with us in the first part of this program about. Carolina's got to focus on the finish, if you will, at least in the last couple of years.
Well, and that's part of it has been just a matter of the reps. I mean, look at how many reps some of these guys get. Cedric Gray played about 6 seasons over the last 2 seasons. And I think that's part of it is just having guys fresh at the end of the year is a big part of winning late.
All right, we'll take a quick break, come back. More coming up with Geoff Collins. Carolina going through a stretch period before they begin our all-access practice here on ACC Network. Oh, beautiful Saturday here in Chapel Hill for the North Carolina all-access practice here at Kenan Stadium. Don't forget, it's the start of a very busy day here on ACC Network and on the ESPN app as well. Right after we're done here at high noon, Mark Kestisher, Mark Herzlich, Ashley Stroline will join you from Chestnut Hill. Bill O'Brien makes his debut, BC Spring Game. And then over on the ACCNX and ESPN Plus at 1 o'clock, Brent Key puts Georgia Tech through their paces. At 2 o'clock on ACC Network, Pat Narduzzi and the Pitt Panthers will be there, and I think Louis Riddick is going to be involved in that along with our crew. And then at 3 o'clock off to Blacksburg, Brent Pry and the Hokies and the maroon and orange game, if you will. And then at 4 o'clock, off to South Florida, Mario Cristobal in Miami, and that'll be on ESPN Plus and also ACCNX. So 5 other spring practices and games this afternoon for you here on ACC Network. Roddy, we've talked a lot about it. David just mentioned the secondary. Geoff Collins talked about Marcus Allen being a factor, of course. Elijah Huzzy's return from injury a year ago. You see a lot of familiarity on that side of the ball for North Carolina, and you know the simplicity with which he built Mississippi State and Florida. Carolina, and then we start talking about schedule. Carolina's got to be ready to go in like week 1 on a Friday night at Minnesota, don't they?
Yeah, I mean, just ease into the schedule with a team that was really good in the Big Ten West, especially on defense last year. But this defense, as you mentioned, there's a lot of familiar faces in some different places. Elijah Huzzy, who they raved about the spring that Elijah Huzzy has led the team in both pass breakups and interceptions. He played that star, that nickel position for North Carolina last year. He's bumped outside. They've got Antavius Stick Lane. Geoff Collins calls him 6'2" Stick. He's listed at 5'8", but that shows you just the power that he plays with. And speaking of power, of course, you got Power Eccles.
Yeah.
Who one half of that duo last year with Cedric Gray at the linebacker position. He is now in a system with Geoff Collins in that beef up front, where Coach Collins told us the goal is to let those big bodies up front be big. let those big bodies up front keep players off, keep blockers off of Power Echols down the field, to let him run the field, be athletic like he has been. He's been phenomenal in the box. And I think from a leadership standpoint, with Cedric Gray gone, he's going to be the guy to step up and provide that leadership. A guy that had 103 tackles a year ago. If those big bodies were able to keep those blockers off of him, Wes, he could have an even bigger season.
And then, David, yesterday, besides Power Echols, the loss of Cedric Gray was discussed, but also the emergence of Amari Campbell,
yeah.
right?
And I think one of the other things, to get back to what we were mentioning a little bit earlier, is yes, they're very excited about Amari Campbell. It was almost like, we don't need to talk about him. That's a safe bet right now. But it's developing some other guys behind them, so you're not as reliant on those two guys. You know, if Amari Campbell and Power Echols each end up with 110-plus tackles this year, it'll look good on the score sheet, but it probably won't match what Geoff Collins actually wants from them, because he would love to see a little more depth and a little more playing time for everybody. And you know, the other thing, to hit on what Roddy said, Geoff Collins is about taking a complex thing and making it simple. Sometimes the talent has not matched the production here on defense. I think what Geoff Collins wants to do is put people in a position to maximize what they are best at.
And I don't think we can talk enough about exactly what you said, the depth that they're trying to build. If you watch Geoff Collins, particularly if you're an ACC fan at Georgia Tech, but then also at Mississippi State and at Florida, I mean, you get entire line changes on the defensive line. 4 out, 4 in, linebackers rotating, secondary rotating pretty consistently, and that does exactly what Mack Brown talked about for late in the year. But the focus on that, I think, will help them a lot, particularly with guys like Kaimon Rucker, who can then be fresh to get after the passer in crucial situations.
There were times last year where Kaimon Rucker, Cedric Gray, Power Echols made all the tackles.
Right.
And there were games, David, where North Carolina played less than 20 guys on defense for 4 quarters. That can't happen anymore, can it?
No, and to your point, it's not just that, but how you're utilizing these guys. So, I mean, Geoff Collins talked about how many plays last year you might have seen Kaimon Rucker dropping back, and he's basically out of the play. When the play's running to the other side and he's dropping back, you want to put Kaimon Rucker in a position to do Kaimon Rucker things. And so when he's on the field, he is productive and he's being used properly, and he doesn't have to be on the field for 60, 70, 90 snaps a game, and you're fresh. Because, again, you look at as good as his numbers were last year, the trend line as the year ended went down, and that has been the storyline. The storyline.
All right, so now it's time to really excite the Carolina fan base this morning, because the number one guy mentioned by the defensive coordinator, by the linebackers, by the head coach, was the improvement of Travis Shaw, Roddy.
And he was the first guy I asked about, because that is a guy that can unlock what this defense can be by being disruptive up front. And as you said, every single one of those people you just mentioned raved about Travis Shaw. And let's not forget, there have been some changes on the coaching staff on defense outside of Geoff Collins. One of those was Ted Monachino,
right,
going from an off-the-field position to an on-field position. And Mack Brown and Geoff Collins both talked about the impact that he has had focusing guys like Travis Shaw because of his NFL experience, able to say, hey, look, man, you may have an NFL body, but all of these other things don't match NFL production. And Travis Shaw, if he is half the player that the coaches have talked about in this preseason, in this spring season, he is going to be one hell of an addition for North Carolina.
One of my favorite things we heard yesterday from Geoff Collins is he was talking about, he's been up here in Chapel Hill since he took the job. His family has not yet, and he's been missing his daughter Astrid, so they call and talk every night. And he said she always wants me to tell stories, and I've run out of stories at this point. So I'm just telling her about the guys on the roster, and I'm going through the roster. I usually go through 3, 4, 5 a day. He said, I got the Travis Shaw. There's only time for one guy when I'm talking about Travis Shaw.
Yeah, I think it's Roddy, it also feels like that different mentality might be based on the fact that the first couple of years it has not gone well for Travis Shaw, highly recruited out of Grimsley and Greensboro, thought of to be a premier defensive recruit when he arrived here in Chapel Hill, and sometimes it takes a minute or two.
It's 5-star players, number 3 defensive tackle in the country. And when you have that level of success, I think sometimes it's easy to come in and think that success is guaranteed. But after 2 years where it wasn't guaranteed, you sort of work yourself into being a great player. And I think he's realized, hey, look, if I dedicate myself, I can be one of the best defensive tackles, not only in the conference, but maybe the country.
David, if they get Shaw and Desmond Evans ready, they're all of a sudden a whole different defense, aren't they?
And that's, I mean, to your point, it is amazing to me how much the guys up front will help everybody else. You know, it's a little like Mac was talking about how Amari and Hampton can make the offensive line look a lot better. Well, you start getting after the pass rush, you start blocking the run better. You fill gaps. It's amazing how much better that secondary will get when the front four is really making things happen.
Well, it's going to be interesting to watch Carolina, and before we're done, we'll look at the schedule. And again, we told you a Friday night in Minneapolis starts the campaign even before the month of September hits. There's more to come from Chapel Hill. All access practice with the Tar Heels next. All right, welcome back to Chapel Hill. Special teams period moving through its paces. Liam Boyd, of course, involved in the kicking competition here this spring with Noah Burnett and all that for North Carolina. We bring you back to Kenan Stadium. Well, Mack Brown had a lot to say about the 23 schedule, David and Roddy. He was a little more gracious about 24, but not much.
Keep putting good teams on there, or other teams in general. Why can't they do scrimmage?
You know what? I mean, Roddy, when you look at the opening night game in Minnesota, but then you look down 3 straight home games, all non-conference, Charlotte, North Carolina Central, Bob Chesney, new coach at James Madison after Kurt Cignetti took the Indiana job, and I see 5 of the next 6 at home after the road game at Minneapolis to start the year.
Yeah, I think the schedule's pretty manageable. There is a stretch there from October, the October 26th game, the Virginia game, and then the Florida State game on November 2nd. They've got bye weeks that sandwich that, so a bye before Virginia and a bye after Florida State. So there is a chunk of time where they're not at home for a while in the month of October into November. But overall, I think it's pretty manageable. Like if you were to look at the top teams, the teams that we think will be the best going into the year,
right?
North Carolina misses a lot of them. No Clemson on this schedule, no Virginia Tech on this schedule. Obviously, you get NC State, Florida State, which we expect to be very good. The rest of them, I think they've got a lot of question marks.
But wait, no Cal, Stanford, or SMU on that schedule either.
Yeah, they're like the cool kids, the old school guys who are like, we've been in here for a while. We're not meeting with the new kids. We don't.
You can't sit at our lunch table.
Can't come to the lunch table. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, you're over in the corner. I will say though, we talked, Wes, about the back end being the trouble for North Carolina the last few years. Well, look at that back end for them. Away from home at Florida State, rivalry game against Wake, away from home, rivalry game against NC State. The back end is where the problems are.
Yeah, great point.
Well, and here it is. David, you bring up a really good point. So, Roddy, here's the quiz. We all know what Virginia's like when it comes to Carolina.
Yep.
So, in November, where's the danger zone? We know Tallahassee's going to be a tough assignment.
Yep.
Bill O'Brien in Boston College the Saturday before Thanksgiving?
Well, here's look, going up to Boston, I think anytime you have to go to Boston College after the month, after the mid-October, you're a little scared about that one.
But you're not up there to watch the leaves?
You could get some unseasonably cold weather up there in Chestnut Hill. And Bill O'Brien's new coach there. By week 11, they're going to have that thing figured out, know exactly what they want to be on offense. And yes, both teams could have some injuries, but still, they'll have that thing more figured out than at the beginning of the year.
All right, David. And can they get a stronger finish?
I mean, yes, certainly they can. But look, I don't feel great about a trip to Virginia given the history there. I don't feel great about a trip to Florida State given that Florida State should be really good. What I would love to see, and it has been a sort of a fringy thing the last few years, but certainly could be this year the way both of these rosters are shaping up, is that last game of the year against NC State being for a spot in the ACC championship.
Wow.
Because I think both of these teams have potential to be in that conversation, and boy, would that be a fun rivalry matchup if that's the case.
And let's just say the talk around NC State in the preseason in the spring has not gone unnoticed here in Chapel Hill.
It's good to have State Carolina at that special spot in the ACC.
Where it's mentioned in the spring?
Where it means something every
absolutely.
time.
And it's not as if there hasn't been some basketball going around too, and yet we're still talking about football for these two. That's a good sign.
Yeah, no, and I think you're right. So there's expectation here. We're going to see some of the competition going on. Now, as Coach Brown noted, several guys are not going to practice. They're done for the rest of the spring. They won't even be in their organized spring game. Let's get to the quarterback situation. Roddy, Connor Harrell's an incumbent, if you will. He started the last game they played, and that was the loss in Charlotte to West Virginia. He's got a powerful arm. Max Johnson's got two truckloads of experience coming in here, though, from LSU and Texas A&M.
He's played a lot of high-level games in the SEC. He threw for over 3,500 yards at LSU, and a lot of those coming in a season where he started 11 games for him. So look, Max Johnson can bring a lot to the table, and I think the thing that you look at from Texas A&M that he really does a nice job of is running better than expected. When he gets out of the pocket, he's really accurate, especially in the short and intermediate games. And people are going to underestimate his ability to create with his feet, but he hangs in the pocket. He's not afraid to stand and deliver. He's got enough arm strength to make all the throws. That Texas A&M offense at times was an abject disaster last year. So his ability to operate successfully in that offense and in that craziness that was Texas A&M last year, I think shows a lot of maturity, and I think he'll bring a lot to this offense, even if he doesn't win the starting job.
Well, yeah, and to your point about the chaos that was A&M last year, he's working with an offensive game plan that might fit him a lot better than the Cheesecake Factory menu that Jimbo carried around with him.
We just have everything.
Yeah, a little of everything, but he does a lot. I mean, look, let's not compare him to Drake May. That's a foolish thing to do. But he does some of the same things that Drake May did well. He does well, too, including moving the pocket, throwing on the run, and being accurate on some of those short and intermediate throws, which I think is going to be a lot of the bread and butter of what UNC is going to do well. As we talked about earlier, I think he's got a really good receiving core and tight end room to throw to. I'm curious your opinion, though, if you would view it this way, Roddy. Is Max Johnson the sort of the lower ceiling, higher floor candidate, and Connor Harrell is sort of the higher ceiling, lower floor candidate? Is that fair?
I think off of pure potential, yeah, I think so. And I think a lot of it's going to come down to what do they want the offensive identity to be? What role do they want the quarterback to play? If they want a lot of quarterback run game and explosiveness and ability to create explosive plays when things break down at the quarterback position, then I think Connor Harrell is probably the guy. But if you want the guy that's going to distribute, not saying Connor Harrell can't, but if you want the guy with experience that's going to distribute to an excellent group of skill players on offense, then I think you go with the experience and the steady hand of Max Johnson. So it's interesting that, yes, I think the ceiling is probably higher with Connor Harrell from production from that position, but is that what you want to be on offense, where you go back to sort of the Sam Howell, Drake May days of, hey, look, quarterback, save us? I don't know if they want that.
I don't think and another area where we talked about the experience and 900-plus snaps in the SEC that Max Johnson has. I mean, another area where him and Drake May are very similar is just the family.
Yeah,
and of course, Max Johnson, the son of Brad Johnson, former Super Bowl winning quarterback. The nephew of Mark Richt, the guy I think a few of us know, and of course his younger brother, Jake Johnson, who I think everybody thought he was a package deal coming with Max.
I certainly did.
Yeah.
We were told he wasn't.
Apparently not. But either way, they're both here. I think that's good. And again, just talked about that tight end room. We won't see any of the guys we're excited about today. So, but boy, if there's something to be excited about for any of these quarterbacks come the fall, is being able to throw to the guys in that tight end room, because there's three real good ones.
All right, let's far be it from us not to cannonball into the pool of speculation, especially in late April, right?
Love it. Love this.
All right. So are we saying we expect this competition to go into August between Harrell and Max Johnson? And is there a possibility in your mind that it goes all the way to, 2 weeks before the Minnesota game?
I think even if they know, realistically, just being completely transparent with how these things work now, it does not benefit Mack Brown one bit to name a starting quarterback before the fall, in my opinion. Maybe from a leadership standpoint it does. In the locker room you get one voice. But that portal's a real thing, man. And so you don't want one of these quarterbacks to leave. And I'm not saying Mack Brown would do anything to be deceitful
right.
with these quarterbacks. But I think this coaching staff can take its time. And even if the conversation is, hey, look, we think Max is the guy, we think Connor's the guy, why would you name a quarterback until fall camp?
All right, it's time to activate the Mark Packer don't tell anybody until the first snap theory. David, you in?
Listen, I am in on this, and frankly, I think because of the divergence in skill sets and what they do, even if it's Max Johnson's the guy, I can see a role for Connor.
Yeah, it's a great point.
It doesn't have to be a full-time and look, frankly, coaches who figure out a way to make sure everyone feels involved, even if you're not the starter, is a real asset in this new era of college football.
Yeah, I think it's really one of the interesting wrinkles that the landscape presents and also the competition presents. But here's the other thing, too. We've mentioned Amari Hampton, or as Kaimon Rucker and J.J. Jones told us yesterday, the Big O, who's the ball carrier for Carolina, and a darn good one, of course, finalist for the Doak Walker Award last year. But here's the other thing, too. You're going to see Darwin Barlow and Davion Bullet Gauze today. Both are suited up, and I think that's an interesting wrinkle behind Hampton in terms of running the football. And I think it's one, if you're following Carolina and you're going to follow this league, I think you got to keep an eye on it.
Yeah, it's funny because we talked to Chip Lindsey yesterday, and I asked him, Amarian had 253 carries last year. Is that a good number for you? And he was like, that's a good number for me. He worked out real well. But as Mack Brown said, it much like with the guys on the defense, that we don't necessarily want to run our guys into the ground. So I think you will see a little more of the guys that we're going to see more of out here. And yeah, I think when you got a big dude named Bullet, who, by the way, the great inside info that we got yesterday from J.J. Jones, Mr. Gauze does not wear socks. What? Why would you? He's just taping up his ankles with no socks, slipping on some cleats, and going out there to run. That is a baller move, in my opinion.
All right, we'll take another timeout when we continue from Kenan Stadium in Chapel Hill. Mic'd up with Geoff Collins as the defense begins their session next.
Back here at the North Carolina All-Access Spring Practice, we got Coach Geoff Collins mic'd up. He's running the turnover drill. Let's listen in to Coach Collins in the turnover circle.
Jack. Let's go.
All right, they're rotating right now. Let me ask Coach Collins. Coach Collins, what are we working on here?
Hey, turnovers, getting the ball. This is the power echoes drill. If something gets tipped, we got to find a way to get the ball. Show them how.
Let's get it. Let's see it.
Stick. Right there, stick. Feet. Get it well. Nice work. Take it. JT going to the pond tonight. Feet. Right there. JT. Drake. Indy.
Let's get it, Coach. That energy that you bring, I mean, where does that come from?
I have no idea. I just love what I do. I love where I'm doing it with these guys, and I'm just fired up to be here. This is awesome.
We talked about being more aggressive and yet simpler. How do you execute that?
Yeah, so just making sure we have everything packaged into families defensively. I want it to be very complex for the offense when they're looking at us, but I want these guys to be free, play fast, and teach it in very simple terms. And the guys have picked up on everything, and they're doing that for us.
You told us that one of the reasons that you wanted this job, obviously the culture, but also those bodies on that defensive line. How excited are you about those guys?
Yeah, well, first of all, it's Mack Brown. I mean, he's a Hall of Famer. He's absolutely amazing. And then as I went down the road with some of the jobs, this one had a front seven that is comparable with anybody in the country. And then I've gotten here, and it's even better than what I thought it was. The guys are balled in. They're playing fast, but there's some really good players and experience on the front seven.
All right, so we're an individual right now. If I wasn't standing here with you, where would you be? Let's walk around. Let's do what
absolutely.
You do.
So I always start with the DBs, because I've been a DB guy most of my life. So right now they've got one line and two line going on in the secondary. So they're doing two line down there. So in two line, you use two lines to do the drills. So they're going in and out doing the weave. And then right here we're doing one line with the corners. And we've got some talent. Elijah Huzzy's one of the best DBs in the conference, probably one of the best punt returners in the country. And we've added some key pieces in the secondary as well with Jakeem Harris, Stick Lane, Traven Stewart, who we affectionately call Dooley, number 9.
Why do you call him Dooley?
I have no idea. He was from East Mississippi, and he's come here, and I think it's just easier to say Dooley than trying to pronounce his first name.
What are some of the coaching points that you look for as you walk around, particularly with the DBs, a group that you have been involved with for years?
Right. Well, I mean, just the first thing is the quick feet, pad level, change of direction. And then the thing that we're blessed with right now is we've got some DBs that have some really good ball skills. So they can make plays in the air. I think Huzzy has had like 7 turnovers in 10 practices, picks and all those kind of things. And, change direction is huge for us. And then pad level, you can see it in action right there.
Now, do you typically stay over here or do you wander?
I'll walk to the D-line so we can go over there. And then this is the group that I think Tar Heel fans and people should be really excited about. So obviously it starts right there with Des Evans. 6'5", 6'6".
So he's listed at 270. I mean, he looks like he could carry 290 easy at some point down the line.
There's no doubt. He's a big man, and I tell him all the time, I feel taller when I'm out here coaching him, and he's out there making plays for us. And so he's done a great job in the offseason, tremendous work ethic, and, just the length that he has, the presence he has physically, and he is a natural leader as well.
Now, one guy that we got a chance to talk to you about yesterday, we've talked about him earlier in our broadcast. It's Travis Shaw, because in the middle, a disruptive defensive tackle is a game changer for a defense. You've talked about how he has changed and dedicated himself more this offseason. What have you seen from the human eclipse Travis Shaw during the spring?
He is such a pleasure to coach, first of all. And again, he's another guy that had a really good offseason. And he's come out here, picked up the things that we're doing. He's played nose for us. He's played 3 technique for us. He'll play some defensive end actually today for us as well.
Let's go.
And just very coachable and, just wants to be really good. I've coached the Fletcher Coxes of the world. I've coached the Chris Joneses of the world. And those relationships and experiences, we showed tape this morning of Chris Jones doing certain things in our package, and Travis has that ability as well.
I mean, if that's the role he's going to play, I think Carolina fans should be incredibly excited. Right. At the linebacker position, you've got Power Echols back. The other spot you seem to be really excited about. What do the linebackers look like to you? What role do you see them playing in your defense?
Yeah, so we want them to fly around and make play. Up front, we use Kevin, another defensive line that's played a lot of ball here, to off of the linebackers, so they're free to run and hit. Ritzy is also a ball up with Travis. But Power Echols has played, I think, 2,300 snaps in the Carolina Blue and made a ton of plays. And so he's got the street cred with the guys. But Amari Campbell, number 17, played in 2 games at a high level, played in the bowl game, started in the bowl game, and he's come out during the spring. And he looks like a young Power Echols out there playing, and that's a huge compliment to him. And they were just building depth behind him. Caleb Lavallee, I don't know if I'm pronouncing that correctly.
Sounds good.
I've said it like 18 different ways. And Michael Short, Cade Law have done really well this spring as well.
Well, Coach, before we get you out of here, want to ask, what are you looking for? What's the goal for this defense today?
Yeah, so we're just want to fly around, play physical. We're going to have inside run today. We're not going to move and stun and blitz. We're just going to line up and play physical brand of football. And the biggest thing, too, is creating turnovers, having energy, but playing really clean football while we are showing a lot of disguises, showing a lot of things, but still being able to execute at a high level and have fun doing it.
Talk about all access. We just got it. The eyes of the defensive coordinator walking around practice. Coach, really appreciate it. We'll check with you later on.
All right.
Wes, we took the full tour with Coach Collins. I'm excited about this defense to see it in the spring and also going into the fall, man.
Yep, I appreciate it, Roddy. Thanks very much. Thanks to Geoff Collins for the inside look and the turnover drill and all that comes with a visit at the defensive end of the Tar Heel practice. When we come back, we'll lean more to the offense. Chip Lindsey still to come mic'd up. So is J.J. Jones, Kaimon Rucker, as we continue from Chapel Hill this morning on ACC Network. Hey, don't forget Game 2 of a big weekend series at Doug Kingsmore Stadium at Tiger Town comes your way tonight, 8 o'clock. NC State, who upset the Tigers last night by a final of 11-8. It's presented for you by Auto Owners Insurance. Mike Farron, Gabby Sanchez have our coverage tonight at 8 p.m. on ACC Network. Terrific weekend series with NC State Clemson. We welcome you back to Chapel Hill. We're at North Carolina's spring practice a week ahead of their game with David Hale and Roddy Jones, West Durham. And Roddy's found his way out there with the Tar Heel offensive coordinator, Chip Lindsey.
I know you can't get me on the sideline. I got to find the coordinators. Coach, what do we have going on here with the receivers and the quarterback?
Yeah, just almost a little loosen up drill, kind of what we call pat and go, just throwing the ball over the top, kind of a slight little jog just to get ourselves loose. And, you know, quarterbacks, we don't want to miss these, right? This gives us an opportunity to give them a chance to catch the ball, but really trying to work on getting the ball out of our hand and getting it out over the top.
So many people are looking at this quarterback position. It's no pressure on these guys, but the last two guys to win quarterback competitions are either playing in the NFL or going to play in the NFL. How do you evaluate the quarterback competition through the spring?
Yeah, it's been good. I mean, both guys are getting basically equal reps here, so we're just trying to let them get as many reps as they can and get comfortable. You know, every year is a different team, right? 2024, you know, you got different people here that maybe weren't here last year, so you're trying to build your offense around the strengths of your playmakers. And, you know, both these guys have come in and competed extremely hard, as well as Michael and Tad as well. So we got a good group of guys. They all like to compete. They all get along. They all, you know, it's competitive, but we have fun with it too. And I like the progress they're making.
I always wonder with a guy like Connor Harrell and Max too, in their ability to run. In practice, it's hard to evaluate that. They're not getting hit. They're not getting. There's a lot of times where the quarterback's not live. How does that factor into the evaluation? How do you measure that in practice?
Yeah, you know, Geoff will call a sack, and you know, if he gets close, and I'm like, you're not catching Connor on that, right. You know, but whatever. Or Max, you know, Max runs really good too. So no, it's more about, are they making the right decision? Are they getting us in the right play? If is there a look we need to change it? Are they getting the protection right? Are they in the right place with their eyes and their feet? And evaluate them on that. And you know, nobody wants to get their quarterbacks hit. You know, I don't know anymore. Back when we played, you know, our
quarterbacks were always live.
But it's a different day, right? And you don't want to lose these guys. But I just think the decision making, who handles the team, who affects the other 10 guys the best. It's calm under pressure. You're trying to evaluate all those things, and both of them are doing a great job.
By my count, 5 tight ends not practicing, including your top 3 guys who are very talented. Your top 3 receivers, or 3 of your top receivers, also not practicing. Yeah. What does that allow you to get done with the younger guys as you go through this?
Yeah, I mean, you know, you can worry about it, or you can get your young guys more reps, and that's kind of what we've done. Is it's really a great opportunity for the Jordan Ships, the Paul Billups, the Alex Taylors, the Christian, you know, those guys are getting reps that they probably wouldn't get near as many. And I think that's how you build depth. And Coach Brown's really big on us about playing more guys and building depth and being able to do that. And this gives us a great opportunity to do that. So you take advantage of those situations and make the best out of them.
So I love chatting, but I want you to do some coaching. I want people to see what you're doing. So I mean, operate like you would always operate in this drill. You go ahead and get it.
Yes,
we got Coach Brown.
I told him I want him to score more but slower. I mean, we're
how do we accomplish that, Coach?
Just kill the clock.
There we go. I love it. Well, you go, Coach.
Okay.
Coach, I'm going to follow you around.
Sounds good.
You get after it with the coaching point.
You got it. All right, let's go. Ball's out on time today. Let's go. Okay, push settle. Let's go. Get out from behind him. Get out from behind him. Good, Connor. Nice. Good job being in rhythm. Nice job here. All right, let's go. Good, Max. Good. Like it. The ball out on time today. Nothing's late today, all right? Good. Good, Tad. Good pre-snap decision. Nice job. Good. 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 All right, let's go, Deems. Let's go, Deems. Good. Good. Love it. Runner's ball. Good. Good runner's ball today, where he can run through the catch. That's what we're looking for, right? Yards after the catch. Good, Max. Good. Here we go, Tad. Much better, Tad, with the feet. Come on, behind him now. Let's go. Come on. He's small. I mean, aim small, miss small, right?
Coach, you talk about that runner's ball. What is that for people who are unfamiliar?
Yeah, you know, that's a term we're trying to use just to make them understand, like, when guys are on the move, we want to make sure we get them a ball they can move. You know, former running back, you know, like you are, you know, you get a ball, you get the guy on the move, he can go score maybe, you know, instead of throwing it behind him or high, you know, we're really trying to focus on, like the old movie Patriot, you know, ball on his front tip there, and let's try to give him a good runner's ball.
Jordan Ship just took a rep. Freshman, a lot of people are excited about. What have you seen from him in the spring?
Yeah, extremely smart, really good competitor. I mean, the guy competes on every rep, which you like, and plays with confidence. And a lot of times you don't see that with young players when they first come to college, because it's a pretty big jump for them. High school, he comes from a great program. The guy works his tail off, and really just impressed with him so far and what he's shown us.
All right, I appreciate it. Coach, you get after. We're going to keep listening in. You're coaching.
Okay. Good, Max. Good. Let's go. Let's go. Ball's out on time. Every time today, right? Good. Good. All right, OTB. Here we go. Vegas that way, right? Push settle. Push settle. Good. Ball. Good. Nice. Okay, we go. Hey, hold up. Is this Vegas or no? Okay. I thought he said OTB. Good. Good, Max. Good. We don't want to go past it, right? We don't want to miss. Good. One, we think he's going to win. Who takes it away? Who takes it away? Good. Ah.
Here we go.
Well, Mike, do a better ball. Make him where he has to catch it. Make him where he has. Better. Much better not throwing the sinker in there, right? You're throwing a good BP fastball on that. That was good. All right, good. Here we go. Good. Good. Nice. Love it. Love it. Good. Nice throw. Nice throw. Here we go. Eyes down the middle. Good. Good. Nice. Good, Max. Good. Good. Start in the middle, Ted. Start in the middle. Good drop. Good. Ball. Nice job. Nice job. There we go. Now we're throwing it today. I like it. What we got?
Hey, Roddy, one of the interesting things
in, slow down a little bit.
Your visit
with
Coach Lindsey is
what you got, Lonnie?
With some of the tight ends and wide receivers down, they're getting a fresh look at the guys who potentially are going to battle for some playing time behind the names we all know.
They sure are. And Mack Brown just came up to me. He said, make sure you take a look at this guy, Paul Billups, number 11. I mean, a guy who has had an incredible spring. What have you seen from Billups so far this spring, Coach?
Yeah, he's really talented. He showed up last year, getting reps even down on the scout team some and in our Skelly stuff against the defense. He's got unbelievable ball skills. He really does a great job going up and attacking the ball, and you see that every day.
This is a really tough day to throw the football. Yeah. People don't know. It is windy. It's like the Masters yesterday.
It is.
What are you telling the quarterbacks on a day like today?
Again, decision making, and we got to understand that it's a windy day. We've got to be more precise, right? We've got to throw the ball on time. You get a lot of throws here in pre-practice trying to get a feel of what it is, but you're right, it's just like playing golf, man. You got to adjust. It could be windy. I think we're going to Boston College late in the season, right? It's cold and windy. You got to be able to figure it out. So it's a good challenge for us, and that's the thing we're trying to embrace every day is the challenge of getting better, and this is just one of those.
All right, Coach. Well, I'm messing up the drill. You've already had to Riverside it because of me, so let me get out of the way.
We're good. Thanks.
Great stuff, Roddy. Thanks very much. Thanks to Chip Lindsey for the look. More to come from Chapel Hill. J.J. Jones, Kaimon Rucker coming before we're done at noon. Well, a full day of ACC football, and we're getting you started here this morning in Chapel Hill with an all-access spring practice. When we come back, we'll dig a little deeper into the Tar Heel spring sessions when we continue on ACC Network. Roddy already told you a little windy in Chapel Hill on this Saturday morning, especially with this practice session underway. Carolina will play their spring game next Saturday here at Kenan Stadium. And with Roddy Jones, David Hale, West Durham, we welcome you back here to our coverage. And I think one of the interesting players to talk about as this spring winds down, and Roddy, you kind of noted this in your visit with Chip about some of the guys on the second line. But, David, Nate McCollum is a guy who, if you took the first half of last year, man, he set this place on its ear in the first 6 games, it felt like.
Well, yeah, and if you go back a little further, even to the last half of 2022 when he was at Georgia Tech, he was terrific as well. So you go that 1 year span basically from early October 22 to early October 23. He was statistically one of the top 5 wide receivers in the ACC. I'm not sure how many people would have realized that. And part of the reason is because in the other games, he really hasn't been very consistent or very productive. And I think, we talked about the number of top flight receivers that are not practicing today. McCollum's one of those guys that's out there and has a chance, I think, to be a genuine impact player for Carolina this year.
Roddy, an emergence of Nate McCollum could change dynamically whoever the quarterback is.
Yeah, it could. He's that slot receiver. He's incredibly explosive. Could return punts for them if Elijah Huzzy needs a break. He is a guy that when he is at his best, you can sort of be that other security blanket for these quarterbacks. The tight end group, we've talked about it a lot, but the explosive plays that he could provide is certainly something that any of these quarterbacks in this offense will really, really love to have, especially because teams are going to load the box up to stop Amari and Hampton because they're going to establish a run, play with some big tight end personnel groups. And Nate McCollum, if he's able to create separation like that, I mean, man, this entire offense could take a massive, massive collective step forward.
Well, there are a lot of former Tar Heel stars today, and David's with one that is on the staff. Harrisburg, North Carolina's Natrone Means standing by.
Yeah, we talk about some of the sure things at Carolina, and they got a big old running back who runs for a lot of yards and breaks a lot of tackles by the name of Omarion Hampton. They got another one here who's on the coaching sidelines now, and Natron Means. What is it like to work with a guy who, in some ways, I think is very representative of you as a player too, in Mr. Hampton?
You know what? It's very rewarding. Omarion's a great player. I mean, he's a great person. As well as a great player. He works hard every day. He's a kid that's definitely dedicated to his craft. And for me, being a former Tar Heel running back, it's a great feeling, when he's back there at the top of the eye and the ball's in his hands.
You've been around, played with, played against, and coached some of the great ones over the years. Where does he stack up in terms of your minds? Is there anybody that he reminds you of?
You know what? I think that, O kind of has a skill set that's all his own. He's a definitely throwback running back, kind of an old school guy. He doesn't mind contact. He catches the ball well. Again, he works hard to perfect his craft. He's a player who I enjoy watching. He wears 28, so to me, he kind of gives me the Adrian Peterson feel. He's a hard running back, he's just a great guy to watch.
He had, I think, 253 carries, if I'm remembering correctly, last year.
Mm-hmm.
I talked to Chip. I said, "How does that number sound to you?" He said, "Sounds great to me." Talked to Mac. He said, "Maybe a little few less than that." What as a running back, how much does the toll of a season add up, and how does he handle that, being a bell cow type of guy?
Well, obviously, we go into it understanding that the season is going to be long, and that at some point every back in the room is going to need to be available. But the thing that we always have been harping on with Omarion is body maintenance and making sure that he does all the things that he needs to do to keep his body in tip-top shape so he's able to go out and perform. So we continually focus on that because O's a guy that always wants the ball in his hands. He hates to come out of the game. If you see him when he comes out of the game, he's standing over there beside the coaches, chomping at the bit, waiting to get back in. So sometimes, we have to hold him back, but he's a great player, and he definitely wants the ball in his hands at all times.
Well, you put him on a little bit of a tight leash this spring for good reason, and making sure that he's ready for the fall, which has meant some of those other guys have gotten a good look from you. Darren Barlow, guy who comes in, he been at TCU, been at USC. What have you seen from him so far?
You know what? Darren has definitely flashed. I think he's still getting comfortable with what it is that we do schematically. I think the way that we run a few things may be a tad bit different from what he's done in the past, but he's been a guy who's improving daily. I think he's going to surprise a lot of folks with what it is that he's able to do. He's made plays this spring in the passing game with the ball in his hands and in protection. So I think Darwin's going to bring us some veteran leadership. He's been around a while. We kind of joke him that he's the old man in the room since he's on his 6th year in his 3rd school, but I think Darwin's going to be a great addition to our RB room.
Well, the other guy that will get a lot of looks is a freshman, Davion Goss, who, I think when you got a guy who's 5'11 and 215, 220, and his nickname is Bullet, that's probably a good sign for you?
Yeah, definitely. I think the thing that Bullet has done is he's come in and, he's really acclimated himself to what it is that we're doing in the backfield. He's a guy who really carries himself, not like a freshman, but more like a veteran guy in his approach to the work. He came from a program at Chaminade where he competed on a high level week in and week out, and those are some things that he's definitely benefited from when he got here because the level of competition has not been too much for him. He steps up and he's shown well in all aspects.
I got to ask you a question on him because yesterday J.J. Jones told us that when you guys first came out for practice the first day, Goss is wearing ankle tape and no socks, and says that's just a South Florida thing. We do that. I see he's got socks on today. Have you had to talk some sense into him?
No, not at all. I love Bullet. I love his approach to it. I mean, he comes out there with no accessories. I joke that he's like a football player straight out the box. No gloves, no tape, no towels. He's just out there with his ankles taped and he's ready to go to work. So he comes with the yeoman type of approach, and it shows when he's got the ball in his hands or when he's picking up protection.
Well, I'm sure batteries were included with him because he's got some energy. Let me ask you, the backfield in general, when last year you've got Drake May, and I know, look, he's a great player, and there was probably a lot of times between him and Omarion where everybody's kind of saying, like, don't worry, they're going to bail us out. How much different does this year feel to you? Because I've heard Mac sort of harp on, like, we can't replace Drake May. Everybody's got to be a little better.
Yes. There's no doubt about it. Obviously, Drake was a great player, and he did some great things for us. And, I think we've got some guys who are still here who are capable of making those same type of plays in the quarterback room. I think there's still
some things that obviously had to shake themselves out. But I think if we look at our overall talent-wise, I mean, from our tight end room to our running back room to our wide receiver room, I feel confident that everybody involved obviously will need to step their game up, and I think that we'll definitely get that done.
All right, well, we talked about Davion's nickname of the Bullet. This guy with one of my all-time favorite, Natrone Means Business.
Yes, sir.
The man over here, Natrone Means, running backs coach at North Carolina. Natrone, thanks so much for joining us.
Yes, sir. Thank you very much for having me.
All right. David, thanks very much. 3,000 career rushing yards, 34 touchdowns in 33 games. Number 2, second-round pick. Golly, 31 years ago? That doesn't seem possible. By the Chargers. Natrone Means from Harrisburg, North Carolina. When we continue, Kaimon Rucker, the Butcher, joins our all-access practice session from Chapel Hill.
Back here in Chapel Hill, North Carolina's all-access practice. One of the reasons Carolina fans should be incredibly excited coming into this year is the return of the Butcher, Kaimon Rucker. 8.5 sacks a year ago, 15 tackles for loss. One of the most disruptive defensive linemen in the entire league. He's got power, he's got speed, he's got bend, and he's got a on him today. Kaimon, really appreciate you. First, before we get into what's going on here, I gotta ask, the name The Butcher.
So it came around my freshman year, and we were playing Boston College, and it was my very first start at the time. And now I talked to my defensive line coach, and they was just like I was as aggressive as a rolling ball of butcher knives. And so after a while, they was just like, they really liked me and my dad. You know, NIL was on the come up around that time, and so we was like, we got to do something with this. And so, you know, we can't, that's too much to say, so we shortened it down to the Butcher, and, you know, the Butcher was born, and we here now.
I love it. I love it. All right, talk to me about what's going on with the defensive line right now. I saw you having a conversation with Travis Shaw. Looks like we got a little, inside run going on?
Yes, sir.
What are the coaching points for a guy who's on the sideline watching these guys that you want to see from them in inside run?
First thing you want to look for is technique, for real, because anything right now in inside run is all, like, obviously for the name of it, is all inside run, outside zone runs, anything that you can think of. So right now the first thing you need to think of is just your fundamentals and your technique. So that's really what I'm looking for, like whatever the call is, that they're completing it to the fullest, their steps are right, their hands are right, their eyes are where they needed to be. And as long as you complete those things, man, hey, you're going to have a really good inside drill.
The rest of this defensive line, we've had a chance to talk to Coach Collins about it some. We've had a chance to obviously talk to Coach Mack Brown. What's the feeling in that room when you've got returning guys like yourself, like Desmond Evans, Kevin Hester, Travis Shaw, guys that have played a lot of ball? What is the feeling like in that room?
Man, just to realize that we got a lot of weapons in the room, and we got a lot of dogs in the room, man, and just to have guys return like myself and others, and then being led by Coach Ted Monachino, man, we got the sky's the limit for us, man, and I can't wait to get to work with these boys, boys that are new to the team, guys that I've been playing for 2-3+ years, man, and I feel like we're all looking at the same goal, man. I feel like we're really excited to make a name for ourselves this season and to, you know, get back to UNC football to where D-lineman is one of the best to come out. So.
All right, I've got a defensive lineman's favorite period, one-on-ones. Desmond Evans just took a one-on-one rep.
Yep.
Looks like Travis Shaw's up here. I want you to talk me through what you see with this rep.
So right now, those good get off. I feel like right there that a spin would have been good if the guard oversetted him a little bit, but I think the guard was a little patient with him. More of a horizontal center. So with spins like that, you're going to have to really buy the outside rush in order to counter back inside. My personal opinion, I think Travis could have went with a double swipe right there, kind of invaded his inside space to get the guard to think, get him confused with his feet, hit him with a double swipe, and I feel like he would have really had a good chance to get to the quarterback right there.
All right, there was a lot of great coaching points. I don't know if you guys have a camera on us, if you could get a camera on us. Talk to me about what a double swipe is. Talk to me about the double swipe.
All right, so I'm going to do my best. Hold on, there's a spider on you.
Oh,
but
thank you.
So I'm going to do the best that I can. So if you're on my left side leverage right here, so I'm going to go. And the thing is with a double swipe, you don't just want to go and just run straight up field and just keep on swiping. It's not exactly what you think it is. The placement of it is that your inside hand is hitting the wrist right here, outside hand cuffing the elbow back here. So when you go, and first with the get off, you want to go invade the inside space so you can have his feet a little confused. And the second that he shoots his hands, swipe, and the second you swipe, because offensive linemen, they like to get their hands back. That's what they taught. So they're going to try to recycle, swipe.
I love it. I love it. When you're watching here, how much can you learn watching? Sorry, we'll let it go. How much can you learn just watching and advance your game, even though you're not getting the live reps? What are you looking for to help try and improve your game?
Honestly, I'm just looking at the feet, man. I feel like us as edge rushers, as defensive linemen that really likes to get after the quarterback, there's a lot of different things that we don't really pay attention to, the little details. Like when you watch film, that's why it's so important to get the mental reps, to get the visual reps. Because when you're out there, man, all you're taught is the plays and to be a ball player after that. And so it's just like when, on my personal standpoint, from my viewpoint, I really look at the feet, the hands, the get off, to see if you fall stepping or not. Where are your eyes when you're looking at before the ball snaps, anything like that. So really, even though like I hate that I can't be out there with my guys practicing physically, but I'm really taking the mental to see what I can do to better my game and to help my guys be better pass rushers.
All right, we've got Coach Mack Brown here now hanging out with us. What about this guy?
Best pass rusher in the country and better person. How many great defensive ends have sung the national anthem for the Final Four?
That's a great point by you. I mean, if you want to sing, I think the answer's one. It's this guy. It's just this guy. The singing ability, I'm glad he brought that up because you can sing a little bit.
Just a little bit.
Where does that come from?
Shoot, that's just me growing up in the church, man. So my mom and my dad, they're very faith-filled, God-fearing, and so, you know, with me growing up in the church was no option, and so that's where I really got my singing ability, singing in the adult choir, children's choir. You know, that's kind of where I got my voice from, and now I still do it to this day. So
I mean, I'm not going to ask you to break out in a song here. I know you got to get warmed up and all that, but as we see full line going, how is that different than just one-on-ones in practice?
Really, for the full line, man, I feel like it gives a really good real live game rep of what is actually going to be in the actual game. Because in one-on-ones, you know, it's an advantage for us. We can be honest. It's an advantage for an edge rusher or defensive lineman because the offensive linemen don't have any help. They don't have the zone protection and the man protection to their side. And so when you go to a full slot, or when you go not to a full slot, but a full pass rush line, you can really start to see how it's going to be in a real game. You're going to have your zone and man sides. You're going to have communications from the center. And so with that, you got to figure out what games are going to work best. So you like to work your text games to the man side because everybody's matched up. You like to work your exit games to the zone side, especially when you got the offensive linemen. Their gaps are C, B, and A.
So let me pause you there.
The
two games that you just talked about, break those down for us.
So the text game, that is when more than likely you're going to be to your 3 technique side. The 3 technique to your side is going to have a vertical charge into the B gap, and the outside guy, the edge rusher, is going to take a good vertical step up field and loop back around into the A gap. The exit part is where it's basically flipped. So the edge guy is going to be the first penetrator. He's going to go into the B gap first, and the nose guard to your side is going to take a good step up field and loop all the way around to get to contain.
Love it, love it. Got to ask about your finger. Other than having some awkward exchanges where you can bend all 3 fingers except for that middle one.
Yeah.
Talk to me about the recovery time that's keeping you out and the injury that's keeping you out this spring.
Yeah, so I had a central tendon slip, and so what that is basically is a tendon that basically keeps your finger straight, and I ruptured that in the Clemson game last season. I don't know what play, when it happened, but I just remember that my finger was a lot more jacked up than it already was. But, you know, I just kind of waited a little bit. I wanted to get some spring ball reps in, especially with Coach Collins coming into the system. I really wanted to see the Minister of Mayhem live. So, you know, I wanted to really get some of his play calls. We really talked with the athletic staff, the athletic training staff, the coaches. All the coaches knew about my decision to get this surgery. It's about a 2 to 3 month recovery, but I have these like little poles in my finger and stuff like that. So I get them out after a month, and after a month, man, I'm up and rolling. So.
Well, let's go. You're going to have a long NFL career, and if this appearance on TV is anything going forward that you want to do, you probably have a long career on this side too. Kaimon, it's been an absolute pleasure, man. Take care.
Yes, sir. Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, appreciate it, Wes.
All right, Roddy, thanks. Thanks to Kaimon Rucker as well. Rucker the Butcher.
I didn't even realize he was injured. I thought he just didn't like Roddy.
When we come back, J.J. Jones, part of our all-access practice session at Chapel Hill.
All right, we're back here in Chapel Hill, UNC's all-access practice, and now I'm watching 7-on-7 with the guy who can run us through everything, Jones. JJ, let's just jump into it. A little 7-on-7 here. We got Max Johnson at quarterback. I don't know if you know the call, but what are you looking for here?
Max Johnson, good catch. Alex Taylor across the middle. Let me see this next play call.
We got 1 rep and then halftime. It's all right. You mentioned Alex Taylor there and Jordan Shipp. Jordan Shipp with the go ball. Alex Taylor makes the catch. Two freshmen. How impressive have they been here in the spring?
You could tell that these guys they're coming here, they want to play, and they really impressed me so far because I know a lot of freshmen, when they come in, it's hard for them to understand the playbook and be able to play fast, but those are two guys who I believe you can make an immediate impact.
We had a chat yesterday about the fact that this receiving core has had names. And Coach Mack Brown told us earlier, every receiver that started for Lonnie Galloway has made it to the NFL. What is the feeling amongst this receiving core, as there's not the names that you've had in the past with Tez Walker coming over and Josh Downs a couple years ago?
We all have a chip on our shoulder, absolutely. I believe that we have one of the best receiving rooms in the country, and I genuinely believe that. And I know from top to bottom we have the depth. I know we've had a lot of guys who have been hurt or just been underrated. So I feel like this year everyone has a chip on their shoulder in the room, and we all want to prove that we all belong and we're all great players.
You're the guy that's catching the passes from Max Johnson and from Connor Harrell. What's it been like being in the middle of a quarterback battle and having to work with both of those guys?
It's not too bad. I remember having to be in the battle with Jacoby Criswell and Drake May my sophomore year. But you try to catch from each one of them. I know Max is a lefty quarterback, and not a lot of people know it's kind of hard catching from a lefty quarterback. It's a little bit different, but catching from both those guys, they're both really good quarterbacks, really accurate, and at the same time, whoever starts is going to be a great player for us.
Let's move out of the way of the kickers a little bit. We'll take a couple steps this way. Going through the spring, not being able to be a full participant. You're an older guy. You've been through it. You know what it's like to go through the grind of the ACC. But what's it been like not being able to be out here as a full participant?
It's tough. You want to be out here and compete with all your teammates and compete with your brothers, but at the same time, I feel like now it's more of a leadership role for me. Teach the young guys, just be a mentor for them, and at the same time, still learn the playbook, even though I'm not out there getting the physical reps, still get the mental reps at the same time.
Last one before we get you out of here. Year 2 under Chip Lindsey. I think people kind of forget that because we've got Geoff Collins on the defensive side, and it's exciting. This offense, this with being the second spring with Chip Lindsey, what have you seen that's different this spring?
This spring, I feel like we're more focused on running the ball a little bit more. When you have guys like Amarion Hampton, who is probably the best running back in the country, you want to be able to feed him the ball and feed him the rock. And Coach Lindsey's best game plan is give your playmakers the ball. I know we had a lot of playmakers last year, but especially with this year, we have so many unproven names that I get to go out here every day and watch and see a bunch of guys who really didn't make plays last year go out here and make plays, which is really good and really helps out this team overall.
UNC's leading receiver last year, one of the best receivers in the conference. Coach?
As soon as he gets through playing, he's going to be trying to get your job.
Both of these guys, he and Kaimon.
And I think they're both really good.
I do too. They're good. It may be a while before they're done playing football. JJ, really appreciate it, man. Wes?
All right, Roddy, thanks very much. Thanks to J.J. Jones. A quick halftime break, if you will, at the practice session. When we come back, more to come from Chapel Hill on ACC Network. Well, with the NFL draft just right around the corner, don't forget Wednesday night, 9 o'clock Eastern here on ACC Network and the ESPN app. The ACC Huddle crew will have their draft film breakdown special, highlighting all the ACC players who could go in the NFL draft. That's Wednesday night, 9 o'clock, draft film breakdowns on the ACC Huddle here on ACC Network. David Hale continues our coverage of the All Access Carolina practice, and he's with Brian Simmons.
Yeah, when I was talking to the Detroit and he came up to me afterwards and he said, I want to plug something here real quick. So he gave me some stats he wanted me to share. 5,000-yard rushers under Mack Brown, 4 All-ACC guys, 1 ACC Player of the Year, 1 Doak finalist, 3 NFL draft picks just in the backfield. We talked earlier that every starting wide receiver under Mack Brown is playing in the NFL right now. They had a quarterback named Sam Howell, another one named Drake May. The point of all of this that I'm getting at, Wes, is they got some pro talent here in Chapel Hill, and we got a guy who's helping them out, Brian Simmons. 10 years in the NFL, 8 years in scouting, of course, a North Carolina Ring of Honor guy, but your job now is pro liaison. Give us a little bit of a background on what that means.
So basically, during the fall when the scouts come in and stuff, my job is to kind of orchestrate the day for those guys to make sure they have everything that they need to make their day easy to evaluate our guys. And then throughout the process, just advising our players in terms of, maybe be agents or just kind of what to expect during the process. And now also with the draft leading up, kind of what they expect and how to go through that process. We'll have a Zoom call with those guys on Tuesday to kind of talk about that kind of stuff more in depth. And so, along with the coaches and other people on the staff, that's kind of how we approach it.
Well, yeah, and the draft process can be such a weird thing for so many guys because you're used to getting ready for game day and putting stuff on film. Yep. This is a much different scenario. And you look at a guy like Drake May, who is being picked apart by everybody who has a space for an opinion, which is almost everybody these days. What do you tell guys who are going through that process and trying to navigate the ups and downs of it?
Yeah, and even on top of that, it's different for every guy too, right? Drake May experience is going to be different from a guy who may not get drafted, right? Drake May has to worry about the personal workouts and traveling and doing all that stuff to go to different teams' facilities, where another guy may just be getting phone calls from position coaches trying to set up a relationship for free agency, right? So it just depends on the guy. But what I tell them all is just to go through the process, prepare when you have interviews, but more importantly, just enjoy the process, because everything that you could have done to help yourself and to control the process is over. There'll be no more games. So now every team goes through their different process to evaluate guys, and there's nothing that you can do about that at this point. So just sit back, enjoy this process, which you will only do one time in your life.
Having been a scout and been on the other side of this, I assume you can give them some good insight to hey, when you're talking to these guys, when you're working out in front of them, these are what the specifics that they're looking at. These are what they're evaluating. Because obviously there's a minimal amount of time that you have into prepping. Put your best foot forward on the things that matter the most.
Yeah, and that's really it. Put your best foot forward with every single thing you do, the same way you do as a player, and then approach and attack everything with energy, show leadership, and be confident. And if you do those things, then the talent, they'll rate you wherever you may be. But those things you can completely control and control those things.
Well, the confidence thing's an interesting one to me because we've had some conversations about people critiquing Drake on things I think are mind-boggling. Yeah. But you look at a guy like Tez Walker, who last season was a lot of ups and downs for him because of the off-field stuff. He went out and had probably not the Senior Bowl that he was hoping for, but goes out and wows them at the Combine and looks really good at his pro day. How did you kind of help guide him through the ups and downs of all of that?
Yeah, so I got here in March, so obviously during the fall I wasn't on staff to be able to help with those things, but I think he showed a lot of maturity. He handled his situation really well, and then when he had the opportunity to play, he made the best of it. I think with him, the NFL sees a guy that has a lot of good traits. He catches the ball really well, he has size, and he has speed, and the NFL will always like those things.
Yeah, as a scout, did you prioritize a guy who had put a lot on film or a guy who's got sort of the skill set? He's got the skills, the stuff you can't teach, and think, we'll figure it out when he gets there.
Well, a little bit of both, right? Ideally, you would like a guy with skill sets and a history of playtime and production, right? And those guys usually get graded a little higher, but sometimes there may be guys who may not have as much experience. He may be a 1 or 2 year starter or maybe a backup role, but has really good traits, or may, in some cases, depending on where he is and who he's playing behind, be behind a really good football player. So you have to look at each guy individually, and more importantly, it's not just that he doesn't have a lot of play or he may not be a starter. You have to look into it more deeply and understand why that may be the case.
Well, I want to ask a guy who has put a ton of plays on film, and that's Ced Gray. I think he played about 6 seasons over the last 2 years. How have you evaluated him, and what have you talked to him about in terms of what he means at the next level?
Same thing. I mean, he's a guy that you see his production and you see his play history. He checks all those boxes. He has the size. When you look at him, he looks like an NFL linebacker. He plays the game the right way with a lot of passion, and I think a team will get a really good football player when they draft him.
Well, sort of to wrap this up, I mean, you obviously had this great pro career coming from Chapel Hill. What's it mean to you to be back in this role and to see just the sheer number of guys who have legitimate pro potential back here in Chapel Hill playing under Mack Brown?
That's the way it's supposed to be. That when you come to University of North Carolina, here's a place that develops NFL guys, and it'll be no different. When you come here, you have a chance to get an education from one of the best schools in the country, and then also you're going to be at a place where we're going to send guys to the NFL, and that's what's expected, and that's how we will operate.
Well, we're glad to have you back here in Chapel Hill, Brian. We'll talk more with Tez Walker and Ced Gray in just a minute. And guys, it is impressive that the number of guys that are being churned out into the NFL from Chapel Hill. We got a couple of them right here who have going through the process right now, for better or worse, I guess. Cedric Gray, linebacker, Tez Walker, elite wide receiver here. Guys, first of all, what's it been like the last few months to have everything that you're doing sort of under a microscope, picked apart one way or another? Where are you going to be? You don't even know what city you're going to be living in a couple months.
Yeah, I mean, obviously we just been training really hard, grinding through this process, waiting on that day. But also we're feeling very anxious. We're wondering where we're going to go, where we're going to be, where we're going to spend the next few years to play football. So it's an exciting process, but definitely very anxious and ready for that day.
Well, Tez, I want to ask you, I'm going to slide over here too. You had a decision to make about coming out. Obviously, the raw speed and athleticism is there on film for everybody to see, but you only got, because of whatever maybe poor decisions were made at higher levels last year, you only got so many games in this offense and so much to put on film. Was that a difficult decision for you to make, to say, like, all right, I think I've done enough to take this next step?
It was a very difficult decision. I thought about coming back, but I feel like I've done enough, and I feel like I'm ready to take that next step and go to the league. I feel like my skill set is different than a lot of guys in this draft. I feel like that's what I can bring to an organization. So I feel like it was time for me to go to the next level.
When you're going through this process, there's so many ups and downs that you go through. And I look back, the Senior Bowl game, I don't know if that was necessarily the best week that you wanted to put forward, but you go into the combine and everybody's like, oh my Lord, look at this guy. How do you kind of navigate the fact that, like, you have some good days, you have some bad days? Over the course of a full season, that all blends together. But when you're under the microscope like this, I assume all of them feel big.
Yeah, just continue to work. I wouldn't let one week define me. Knew it was a bad week. I just went back in the grind mode, got back down to Florida, got on the jugs and just worked on my craft. So by the time the Combine Pro Day came, everything was polished and looked good for everybody. So just continue to grind and work and didn't let that affect me. That's pretty much what it was.
Sid, we just talked to Brian Simmons, and I want to ask you guys, either of you can chime in, but I'll ask you, Sid, what is it to have the support system that Carolina gives you, not just throughout the course of the season and getting ready for games and putting good stuff on film, but as you're navigating these sort of uncharted waters, to have people who've been through it before and understand the way that the world works at this level?
Yeah, it's a great feeling, like you just mentioned. Brian Simmons, a former linebacker, somebody, the position that I played, so he's been a big help throughout this process, just giving us advice on what it was like for him, what his experiences were like in the NFL. And it's a great tool to have, heading into the NFL and have a head start in an understanding of how things operate.
Has anything surprised you as you've gone through this process?
Excuse me?
Through the draft process?
Nothing has really surprised me. I'm learning a lot. Obviously this is something that I'm new to. So I'm learning a lot and trying to take it all in, but nothing's really surprised me too much.
Questions you've been asked by anybody during all this?
Nah, I haven't had no crazy questions. The crazy
is what you're saying.
Pretty much. The only crazy ones I get is when they ask about, like, the NCAA stuff, like why didn't I do this, do that instead of doing this, and I'm just like, I had anything crazy, so.
Well, we're going to get going. Thanks so much, guys. Best of luck in the draft. We can't tell you how much we appreciate the time. Looking forward to seeing you guys all on Sundays.
Yes, sir. Appreciate it.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it. And, of course, you're talking about those are two of the three big departures for Carolina. You know the numbers on Drake May, who's expected to be a top 3, top 2 pick a week from Thursday night. You see Tez Walker in limited reps, 41 catches, almost 700 yards. And what more can you say about one of the ACC and the nation's best tacklers in Cedric Gray, 126 stops. Roddy is standing by with J.J. Jones, and I think we got some one-on-one situations. Roddy.
Well, you know what they say, you can't keep the Jones boys apart. Back here with J.J. Jones. J.J., we got a little team action. What have you seen so far in the team period?
So far, I've seen a lot of plays being made on the offensive end. Like I said before, the young guys are out here really making a lot of plays, and Connor and Max at quarterback, they're making the right reads, right decisions, and it's going to be competition all spring.
Who are some of the young guys that you've seen making plays, not just today, but over the course of the spring?
Sticking with the receivers, you got to think of guys like Jordan Shipp and Alex Taylor. Those two true freshmen have came in and made plays right away. Not even, on one of our more veteran DBs, they've made great plays. And outside the receiver room, I love Davion Gauze. We call him the pill toter from Florida. He doesn't wear socks. He doesn't wear gloves. He definitely, who he is when he's out there. He knows how to run the ball well. He's got great vision, so I really like Davion.
No socks is a little disturbing to me, but we'll move past that. As you mentioned, Jordan Shipp had a big over route a little bit earlier, a catch on Elijah Huzzy. I assume that's increased the level of play of the DBs as well. It's a DB group that you get to see often. It's a DB group that there are some question marks about coming into this 2024 season. What have you seen from the DBs?
It's a young room. We've got some veterans. We got 3 returners coming back, but other than that, we have a lot of new transfers, new new freshmen. So it's exciting to see all these young guys be able to compete at a high level. And then we have a guy like Elijah Huzzy back there and Stick Lane. Those are two veteran players, and they know how to control the secondary. Like, we got to play right here. Coming to me, I'll make a catch.
Oh, come on, that was JJ's!
That was going to be perfect. That would have been a catch right there.
Play DB. That's a PBU. Coach Collins going to have to put that one on the card. Oh, I mean, Max Johnson throwing the ball away. Perfect pass to J.J. Jones on the sideline, who was ready for it. I got the heck out of Dodge. But J.J. was ready for it, and it gets broken up. It's all right. Sometimes that happens. But Max Johnson in the backfield is in the backfield with Darwin Barlow. A couple of transfers. What have you seen from those two guys? What have they brought to the table?
They brought veteran leadership and experience. Max Johnson coming from the SEC, he's played high football, high standard football, and he's been able to come here with him and Austin Blaskey, who played at Georgia. They're guys who know what they're doing.
That one skipped.
That one skipped. That one didn't count. But
I like the reflexes. I mean, you're immediately going for the football, and I'm 10 yards away. It just shows why one of us played receiver and the other one is talking on TV right now. When you're watching team, obviously you like to go to one-on-one battles. I'm obsessed with eyes. Like, where do people's eyes go? Where do your eyes go as you're watching team periods?
First, you got to look at the linebackers, see where they're setting at, and then you got to look at the safeties. You want to look at your man, but at the same time, if you could read that there's two safeties back there, it might be cover 2, cover 4. So being able to read the whole field gives you an advantage in your route running, because in your receiver, you know what you're running. DBs don't know what you're running. So using all the advantages you can makes things a lot easier.
It's been fun to kind of be with you as these things are developing, you pointing out guys on the defensive side, the offensive side that you really like, but also pointing out routes that you like. You were telling me about one of your favorite routes in the middle of the field, not down near the goal line, because all you receivers like a fade down near the goal line. But in the middle of the field, what are some of your favorite routes that you like to run?
I've got to go with a climb route. That's basically running like a little drag underneath the linebackers. Linebackers going to come down. The opposite corner that's guarding me will most likely drop off. You pop up right over the top. Oh, we got a catch right here. Get upfield. That's another freshman that we got, another freshman tight end.
That was a heck of a throw on the run by Connor Harrell into the wind. I mean, the wind is crazy today. He's throwing that thing off of 1 foot, running to his right. That was a heck of a delivery.
Nah, these guys can play, especially Connor. I love how the way he played it towards the end of last season. Him being able to step in for Drake and come into the bowl game with that starting spot and able to make plays. But like I said before, it's been a great competition QB battle between these two, and I'm going to enjoy watching it.
Now, you're one of the most veteran guys on this team. As you mentioned, you graduate in May. What's Carolina meant to you over the course of your career?
It's really meant everything to me. Like Coach Brown says, he tells everybody in recruiting, it's not a 4-year decision, it's a 40-year decision. And he's got me connected with a lot of guys with AC Network, like you, with Wes, just to be able to pursue life after football, because he knows that we all want to play football, but one day you're going to take the shoulder pads and the helmets off. You're going to untie the cleats, and you're going to have to go into the real world. So I really love this is a great program. You can get a great education here. I love Carolina, and it's just, like I said, it's just been great to be here.
Just saw Connor Hill get out, break, contain, get upfield. Premature whistle a little bit. I think he had a little bit more in that run. Big question here. Are you faster than Connor Hill?
Am I faster than Connor Hill? I believe I'm the fastest.
Coach Mack Brown has said that he's 4'4" guy over there.
He's 4'4". I think I'm 4'3". I'm faster than Tez Walker.
Oh, let's go. Where's Tez? Where's Tez?
See, he ran away. He knows the real answer.
Alex Taylor with a great catch over there, one of those freshmen that you were talking about. How often is there a debate about the fastest in the locker room?
Oh, you hear it every day, especially last year with Tez. And we got a younger guy in Chris Culliver, number 3 receiver, who he's an absolute burner. Those two talk about every day who's faster, but they were always talking about who's second fastest, because they already know who the big dog is in the room.
It's J.J.
So,
Jones,
yeah, at least they know.
Of course. As a leader in this group, what are most often the tips that you're giving some of these younger receivers, the Jordan Ships, the Alex Taylors? What are some of the receiving tips that you're giving to these guys on a regular basis?
I say the two biggest things. The first one is just go out there and have fun. I know it's college football, but at the same time, you got to have fun. If you're not having fun, you're gonna be stiff. You're out there play a little bit, not as loose as you want to. And number 2, just be out there and be physical. College football is way different than high school, and a lot of these guys, they didn't block in high school. I know I didn't, but when you play at this level, these DBs are just as fast, just as strong. So being able to be physical in everything you do, whether it's route running or blocking, you have to be physical in everything.
Yeah. All right, JJ, it has been an absolute pleasure. Thank you for hanging out with us. Thank you for making us smarter about this team and about ball in general. After your, hopefully for me, extremely long NFL career, you can jump in our business and take my job.
All right, I'll take your job and everybody else.
There you go. Hey, Wes, back to you.
All right, Roddy. No truer words spoken there. When we come back, we'll head for the final turn on our all-access spring practice with the Tar Heels. It's a busy day on ACC Network. We'll retrace those steps for you as well as maybe a final visit from Mack Brown, too, after this. Final stretches of North Carolina's all-access practice here at Kenan Stadium this morning in Chapel Hill. It is a huge day on ACC Network. You want your football fix? Well, you won't have to turn the channel all afternoon, because coming up next, Mark Kestisher, Mark Herzlich, Ashley Stroline standing by. Bill O'Brien makes his spring debut as the head coach at Boston College. That'll be live here on ACC Network. Then an hour later, Brent Key over on ACCNX and ESPN+. Georgia Tech begins their spring game in Midtown Atlanta at Bobby Dodd Stadium. An hour later on ACC Network, we'll switch from Chestnut Hill to Acrisure Stadium in Pittsburgh. Pat Narduzzi and the Panthers. An hour after that, over on ESPN Plus and ACCNX, off to Blacksburg for Brent Pry. Bill Roth and Rini Ngolio will be there for coverage of the Hokies. And then we'll wrap it up at 4 o'clock this afternoon. Our buddy Andre Adelson, part of the coverage of Miami's spring game here this afternoon on ACC Network X and also the ESPN app. And you see Carolina's run game behind Amarian Hampton getting some reps here as we start winding down. Chip Lindsey's on the walkie-talkie, and I think Roddy is near the head coach of the Tar Heels.
Yeah, I'm going to see if I can grab Coach Mack Brown for a second. Coach, we got a little team period. It's got to be one of a coach's favorites. What have you seen from these guys out here competing today?
Well, they're each trying to raise their value. You know, we got to play the best players. They're all equal off the field. We want all their lives to be great off the field. On the field, you and I are going to get over. On the field. Okay, get with your coaches. Get with your coaches. But this is like a game. They're playing a game. So what they do here is what we're going to see how they're going to respond at Minnesota. And everything either raises their value and trust or lowers it. And it's on them to do that. And we had a great scrimmage on Thursday, so but easily a day. Because you know how people get for scrimmages, they don't as much. So we do a better job of winning games when we don't play well, and we got to be ready to play each week. So that was one of the big goals for today, is make sure that we here have energy and play well, and I think they've done that.
We got a bunch of guys walking. I will go wherever you need us to go to get out of the way.
We'll go right here.
But as you evaluate this team, there are some areas where I think there are question marks. Obviously, the offense is one of them, and we have talked a little bit about it, but you feel so good about this group that you're assembling on the offensive line?
We've got more depth than we've had. It's a tough group. They love to play, and they're excited about running the ball. And all that. Coach Clemens is a tremendous teacher. He's got a hat that says "Run the damn ball," so he doesn't say hello to him. He says "Run the damn ball." So we want to run the ball better.
Amarian Hampton, we've seen him take a couple of touches today. When you have, and you've had some great running backs, when you have a running back like Amarian Hampton, how do you operate with him in the offseason to make sure that he arrives in Minnesota healthy and ready to go?
Well, it's as you remember, it's difficult. He has got to buy in to he will not get hit as much. He will not scrimmage full speed as much, but he's going to have to push himself so hard that he's ready to go with full-time contact when we get there. And he's done that so far. He's had a tremendous spring, but he knows we've got to develop guys behind him because he needs a break some and he needs a rest. So practicing full speed, being really physical and tackling, and keeping people healthy is what we're all trying to do. We're trying to go game speed and keep job of the head coach, and it's a very difficult job.
I can imagine it is. I want to put a punctuation mark on some things that you've accomplished here. I mentioned it earlier, but the past two guys who have won a quarterback battle for you are either playing in the NFL or about to get drafted top 5. Every receiver that started under you here at North Carolina is playing in the NFL. Obviously, the success that you guys have had on the field, playing in an Orange Bowl for the first time in recent memory, the games that you've won. What makes you most proud about your second stint at North Carolina?
Is that when we came in, we'd won 5 games in the last 2 years and hadn't been to bowl games. And we weren't relevant, and the stands were empty, and people were down. Larry Fedora did a tremendous job here till the end. And then the last couple of years, it was a struggle for him. But for us to come in here, have the excitement back. People say, well, people gripe when you win 8 and 9. I said, yeah, at least they care. And that's important. But I really feel like that we're so close. We are relevant. We've been in the top 10 a couple of times. We're recruiting at a high level. I love these kids. We've got a tremendous staff. And all we got to do is figure out how to finish a little better.
Coach, we've enjoyed the access. Really appreciate you having us out. It's been great. Thank you for the great weather, and thank you for a little bit of wind to see some adversity for these guys.
Thank you. This is fun for them because we don't get to control what God says happens on Saturday. We don't always get to play indoors. So not like basketball, we have to handle the elements. So this was fun today.
We love it, Coach. Thank you.
Thank you, Roddy.
Wes?
All right, Roddy, thanks. When we come back, final word from Chapel Hill. Closing up the session with the Tar Heels next. Well, the elements today at Kenan Stadium. A little wind never hurt anybody in April, thanks to Mack Brown and his staff. Terrific effort here today by everybody involved to help us bring you this all-access spring practice. All right, obligatory takeaway from today about Carolina.
I got 2. The first is we didn't talk a ton about the O-line. I was a little worried about them coming into last year. This year, those look like dudes. That's NFL-sized dudes out there. My second is next year when we do this, let's just have J.J. and Kaimon handle the second half of this. We'll go hit top of the hill. It'll be fine.
There you go.
That's a great point. Look, Carolina's going to be better than a lot of people expect. I don't know how much better, but I know they'll be better, and I know that Mack Brown likes the position they're in. They're not going to be talked a lot about, but he feels like he's got a really good football team.
I think it's going to be very interesting to watch the first month with this team. You know, the 3 home games that follow the opener at Minnesota, I think they've got a chance, right? They're one of those contenders behind the summer of Florida State and Clemson, right?
And it might be the most wide open at the top of the league we've had in a while.
Yeah, that's a good point there. Great to be with David Hale, Roddy Jones. Now we send you to Chestnut Hill. Mark Kestisher, Mark Hersley, Ashley Stroline standing by with the Eagles.